Welcome back, in final part 8 of DP. So let's get on this topic.
The Deepwater Horizon oil spill was a major industrial accident on the Gulf of Mexico, which killed 11 people and injured 16 others, leaked about 4.9 million barrels, 210 million US gallons, 780,000 cubic meters of oil with plus or minus 10% uncertainty, which makes it the largest accidental marine oil spill in the history of the petroleum industry. And costed the company more than $65 billion in cleanup costs, charges and penalties.
On 20 April 2010, the semi-submersible exploratory offshore drilling rig Deepwater Horizon located in the Mucondo prospect in the Gulf of Mexico exploded after a blowout.
After burning for 2 days, the rig sank.
The well was finally capped on 15 July 2010.
A 4.9 million barrels, 210 million US gallons, 780,000 cubic meters of leaked oil, 810,000 barrels, 34 million US gallons, 129,000 cubic meters was collected or burned, while 4.1 million barrels, 170 million US gallons, 650,000 cubic meters entered the Gulf waters.
1.8 million US gallons, 6,800 cubic meters of correction dispersant was applied.
The spill had a strong economic impact on the Gulf Coast's economy sectors such as fishing and tourism. Oil spill caused damages across a range of species and habitats in the Gulf.
Researchers say the oil and dispersant mixture, including pHs, permeated the food chain through zooplankton.
Toxicological effects have been documented in benthic and pelagic fish, estuarine communities, mammals, birds and turtles, deep water corals, plankton, foraminifera, and microbial communities.
Effects on different populations consist of increased mortality or as sublethal impairment on the organism's ability to forage, reproduce, and avoid predators.
In 2013, it was reported that dolphins and other marine life continued to die in record numbers, with infant dolphins dying at 6 times the normal rate, and half the dolphins examined in a December 2013 study were seriously ill or dying.
BP said the report was inconclusive as to any causation associated with a spill.
Studies in 2013 suggested that as much as 1/3 of the released oil remains in the Gulf.
Further research suggested that the oil on the bottom of the seafloor was not degrading.
Oil in affected coastal areas increased erosion due to the death of mangrove trees and marsh grass. Researchers looking at sediment, seawater, iota, and seafood found toxic compounds in high concentrations that they said was due to the added oil and dispersants.
Although Gulf fisheries recovered in 2011, a 2014 study of the effects of the oil spill on bluefin tuna by researchers at Stanford University and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, published in the journal Science, found that toxins released by the oil spill sent fish into cardiac arrest.
The study found that even very low concentrations of crude oil can slow the pace of fish heartbeats.
BP disputed the study, which was conducted as part of the federal natural resource damage assessment process required by the Oil Pollution Act.
The study also found that oil already broken down by wave action and chemical dispersants was more toxic than fresh oil.
Another peer-reviewed study, released in March 2014 and conducted by 17 scientists from the United States and Australia and published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, found that tuna and amberjack that were exposed to oil from the spill developed deformities of the heart and other organs.
BP responded that the concentrations of oil in the study were a level rarely seen in the Gulf, but the New York Times reported that the BP statement was contradicted by the study. Research discussed at a 2013 conference included preliminary results of an ongoing study being done by the National Institute for Environmental Health Sciences indicating that oil spill cleanup workers carry biomarkers of chemicals contained in the spilled oil and the dispersants used.
A separate study is following the health issues of women and children affected by the spill.
Several studies found that a significant percentage of Gulf residents reported mental health problems such as anxiety, depression, and PTSD.
According to a Columbia University study investigating the health effects among children living less than 10 miles from the coast, more than a third of the parents report physical or mental health symptoms among their children.
Australia's 60 Minutes reported that people living along the Gulf Coast were becoming sick from a mixture of Brexit and oil.
Susan Shaw of the Deepwater Horizon Oil Spill Strategic Sciences Working Group says BP told the public that Brexit was as harmless as Dawn dishwashing liquid. But BP and the EPA clearly knew about the toxicity of the Brexit long before this spill.
According to Shaw, BP's own safety sheet on Brexit says that there are high and immediate human health hazards.
Cleanup workers were not provided safety equipment by the company, and the safety manuals were rarely, if ever, followed or distributed to workers, according to a Newsweek investigation.
The safety manuals read, avoid breathing vapor and wear suitable protective clothing.
Oil clean-up workers reported that they were not allowed to use respirators and that their jobs were threatened if they did.
A peer-reviewed study published in the American Journal of Medicine reported significantly altered blood profiles of individuals exposed to the spilled oil and dispersants that put them at increased risk of developing liver cancer, leukemia, and other disorders.
BP disputed its methodology and said other studies supported its position that dispersants did not create a danger to health.
In 2014, a study was published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences which found heart deformities in fish exposed to oil from the spill.
The researchers said that their results probably apply to humans as well as fish.
On 15 December 2010, the Department of Justice filed a civil and criminal suit against BP and other defendants for violations under the Clean Water Act in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana.
The case was consolidated with about 200 others, including those brought by state governments, individuals, and companies under multi-district litigation docket MDL number 2179 before U.S. District Judge Carl Barbier.
In November 2012, BP and the Department of Justice reached a $4 billion settlement of all federal criminal charges related to the explosion and spill.
Under the settlement, BP agreed to plead guilty to 11 felony counts of manslaughter, 2 misdemeanors, and a felony count of lying to Congress, and agreed to 4 years of government monitoring of its safety practices and ethics.
BP also paid $525 million to settle civil charges by the Securities and Exchange Commission that it misled investors about the flow rate of oil from the well.
At the same time, the U.S. government filed criminal charges against 3 BP employees. 2 site managers were charged with manslaughter and negligence, and 1 former vice president with obstruction.
Judge Barbier ruled in the first phase of the case that BP had committed gross negligence and that its employees took risks that led to the largest environmental disaster in U.S. history.
He apportioned fault at 67% for BP, 30% for Transocean, and 3% for Halliburton.
Barbier ruled that BP was reckless and had acted with conscious disregard of known risks. In June 2010, after a meeting in the White House between President Barack Obama and BP executives, the president announced that BP would pay $20 billion into a trust fund that will be used to compensate victims of the oil spill.
BP also set aside $100 million to compensate oil workers who lost their jobs because of the spill.
On 2 March 2012, BP and businesses and residents affected by the spill reached a settlement of roughly 100,000 suits claiming economic losses.
BP estimated that the settlement cost more than $9.2 billion.
In 2015, BP and 5 states agreed to an $18.5 billion settlement to be used for Clean Water Act penalties and various claims. On 20 September 2022, a fire at BP's Husky Toledo refinery caused the death of 2 workers there.
The fire was put out that day, but the refinery remained shut down.
The refinery shutdown was expected to increase American petrol prices. BP lobbied the British government to conclude a prisoner transfer agreement which the Libyan government had wanted to secure the release of Abdelbasset al-Megrahi, the only person convicted for the 1988 Kirby bombing over Scotland, which killed 270 people.
BP stated that it pressed for the conclusion of prisoner transfer agreement amid fears that delays would damage its commercial interests and disrupt its £900 million offshore drilling operations in the region, but it said that it had not been involved in negotiations concerning the release of Megrahi.
In February 2002, BP's then chief executive, Lord Brown of Mattingly, renounced the practice of corporate campaign contributions, saying, "That's why we've decided as a global policy that from now on we will make no political contributions from corporate funds anywhere in the world."
When the Washington Post reported in June 2010 that BP North America donated at least $4.8 million in corporate contributions in the past 7 years to political groups, partisan organizations and campaigns engaged in federal and state elections, mostly to oppose ballot measures in 2 states aiming to raise taxes on the oil industry, the company said that the commitment had only applied to contributions to individual candidates.
During the 2008 U.S. election cycle, BP employees contributed to various candidates, with Barack Obama receiving the largest amount of money, broadly in line with contributions from Shell and Chevron, but significantly less than those of ExxonMobil. In 2009, BP spent nearly $16 million lobbying the U.S. Congress.
In 2011, BP spent a total of $8,430,000 on lobbying and had 47 registered lobbyists.
In 1937, Iraq Petroleum Company, IPC, 23.75% owned by BP, signed an oil concession agreement with the Sultan of Muscat.
In 1952, IPC offered financial support to raise an armed force that would assist the Sultan in occupying the interior region of Oman, an area that geologists believe to be rich in oil.
This led to the 1954 outbreak of Jebel-Akhdar War in Oman that lasted for more than 5 years. The U.S. Justice Department and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission filed charges against BP Products North America Incorporated, subsidiary of BP plc, and several BP traders, alleging they conspired to raise the price of propane by seeking to corner the propane market in 2004.
In 2006, one former trader pleaded guilty.
In 2007, BP paid $303 million in restitution and fines as part of an agreement to defer prosecution.
BP was charged with cornering and manipulating the price of jet propane in 2003 and 2004.
BP paid a $125 million civil monetary penalty to the CFTC, established a compliance and ethics program, and installed a monitor to oversee BP's trading activities in the commodities markets.
BP also paid $53 million into a restitution fund for victims, a $100 million criminal penalty, plus $25 million into a consumer fraud fund, as well as other payments.
Also in 2007, 4 other former traders were charged.
These charges were dismissed by a U.S. District Court in 2009 on the grounds that the transactions were exempt under the Commodities Exchange Act, because they didn't occur in the marketplace but were negotiated contracts among sophisticated companies.
The dismissal was upheld by the Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in 2011. In November 2010, U.S. regulators FERC and CFTC began an investigation of BP for allegedly manipulating the gas market.
The investigation relates to trading activity that occurred in October and November 2008.
At that time, CFTC enforcement staff provided BP with a notice of intent to recommend charges of attempted market manipulation in violation of the Commodity Exchange Act.
BP denied that it engaged in any inappropriate or unlawful activity.
In July 2011, the FERC staff issued a notice of alleged violations, saying it had preliminarily determined that several BP entities fraudulently traded physical natural gas in the Houston Ship Channel and Katy markets and trading points to increase the value of their financial swing spread positions. In May 2013, the European Commission started an investigation into allegations the companies reported distorted prices to the price reporting agency Platts in order to manipulate the published prices for several oil and biofuel products.
The investigation was dropped in December 2015 due to lack of evidence.
A dataset of gasoline prices of BP, Coltex, Woolworths, Kohl's, and Gulf from Perth gathered in the years 2001 to 2015 was used to show by statistical analysis the tacit collusion between these retailers. Documents from a 2016 vintage drill in the Great Australian Bight reveal claims by BP that a large-scale cleanup operation following a massive oil spill would bring a welcome boost to local economies.
In the same bit, BP also stated that a diesel spill would be socially acceptable due to a lack of unresolved stakeholder concerns.
An internal email from mid-2017 was leaked in April 2018 in New Zealand.
The email laid out that pricing was to be raised at certain sites in the region around the Taki in order to regain volume lost at that bridge.
This led to the government asking the Commerce Commission to investigate regional prices. Initial indications were that motorists were paying too much across most of the country. That's it for this episode today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on post notifications for more upcoming episodes and contents, and we will see you another time.